Greenhouse gas emissions is a global issue. The U.S. emits 13% of global greenhouse gases. China, at 30%, is the largest emitter. India's emissions are approximately equal to all of the European nations combined. Even if the U.S. did an excellent job of getting to net zero, it would still suffer the impacts of climate change if other major greenhouse gas emitters did not act. Some believe that the U.S. should show leadership by providing a model that the rest of the world will choose to follow, without being constrained by the decisions of other countries. Others believe that all nations share a fragile climate and all must contribute to the solution. They argue that like-minded nations should join together to enact policies that will create strong incentives for every nation to act. Some question whether global efforts should account for cultural and economic differences between countries. They argue that wealthy countries should decrease their energy usage while allowing poorer nations to increase their own energy usage for development and to prevent mass migration. They further argue that the responsibility falls primarily on rich countries like the U.S., while developing countries should not be burdened by these limitations. But allowing poorer nations to increase their energy consumption, others argue, both hinders global efforts and forces the populations of wealthier countries to sacrifice their energy consumption due to situations outside their control. Sophisticated modeling from organizations like the Princeton Center for Climate and the Environment show that the U.S. achievement of net zero by 2050 is difficult, but can be reached by using different combinations of energy choices. These combinations are called pathways. Here are some examples. Some experts support using only renewable energy sources, which is the cleanest and safest way to eliminate the main sources of greenhouse gas emissions. Renewable energy sources have also become more cost-efficient and offer the possibility of significant job creation. However, others point out that a renewables-only pathway is unrealistic because the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. It would require quadrupling of our already stressed electricity capacity that will likely be limited by the availability of required raw materials such as lithium, cobalt, and copper. And it would require use of land equivalent to the surface area of 6 U.S. states. Some experts support the use of nuclear energy as a clean, flexible energy source that would be a reliable complement to renewable energy and accelerate the transition away from carbon-based energy. While some worry about how to address the issue of radioactive waste, for which the U.S. has not yet been able to define a policy, others argue that nuclear has a better safety track record than fossil fuel energy, and that new generation nuclear reactors are much safer. For this pathway, some say that some continued use of fossil fuels with carbon capture and sequestration technologies enables the U.S. to remain competitive in certain critical industries where renewables are not a viable option. Critics of this approach say carbon capture technologies are just emerging and we should not be using carbon capture technologies as an excuse to avoid getting rid of the energy sources that have created the problem. Some say that having the federal government set goals while giving the states flexibility to choose the pathway that is best for them will optimize resources and accommodate differences between the states. Others argue that a single pathway prescribed by the federal government will provide much-needed speed and coordination on climate change efforts throughout the country. Now that you've heard various arguments on the proposals, let's open the discussion for your group. Please share your thoughts. We want to hear your opinions, whether they are for or against the proposals.